Hi, welcome back to Empathy Facts series. Um, this generally comes on Thursday. Sometimes it's in form of this conversation, and sometimes a regular post with some tips. So for today, we are going to talk about this challenge about sharing our feelings. So we sought suggestions, from people about what topic should we cover, and this is one of the suggestions that came up. Of course, it's a very wide kind of a topic because sharing our feelings. Is connected with many things. It's connected with us being assertive. So the fact that all of us have right to feel what we feel and to be able to express it. Uh, but then whether we express it or not, or in what form do we express it, those are the things that concern us. The other thing that generally concerns us is the consequence. So what would happen if I were to share my feeling, and that would also affect my action of actually expressing my feeling or not. So while there can be many tips related to that, I'm going to share a few. So this is not a complete list, of course. So one thing about our feelings is that uh, we have to one remember that my feelings may be triggered off by a particular situation, but around my feelings there would always be some thoughts which are linked with that feeling. So it's important to pause and to see what is happening in my mind, what's going through my mind. So if right now I'm feeling angry, or upset or sad, then first thing that I need to ask myself is, okay, so what might have triggered this? Or okay, what's happening to me, what's going on in my mind? And the thoughts that may appear linked with this anger could be, oh, how dare this person shout at me? Am I not a person? Do I not deserve that respect? So what are my thoughts, and what is contributing to the feelings that I'm going through right now, or what has triggered those? So then comes the next step. I've understood, let's say I've completed step one. I've seen what I've tried to reflect on what's happening to me, what's going on through my mind. The next step is to think that, okay, if I want to share my feeling, what is the purpose of communicating this? What is the purpose of sharing my feeling right now in a particular context? So one purpose could be that I just want to vent it out, let's say with somebody who could be my sounding board. So the idea is not to right now confront the person that I'm angry with. The idea is to find a supportive space where I could just vent out what I'm going through, or express myself. So when the purpose is that, then of course you would ideally find somebody that you trust, and you're going to share that. You're going to tell them that, I'm upset about something and I would like to share that with you, but all I want right now is for you to listen to me and not offer solutions. Because obviously, when we start sharing our feelings and problems with somebody, people also have this urge to do something about it. So it's very important for us to tell people that I'm sharing this, and I'm going to talk a lot, but I want you to just listen and not offer any solutions. So that's one thing, that if my purpose is to, let's say, find that supportive space to vent out or to express. But let's say the purpose is something else. The purpose is to actually tell the person uh, how I felt at that point of time. And so this is more of also like giving a feedback to the person that, I did not appreciate this and I did not like this. So it would be great if you don't do it again, whatever the action was. Let's say you want to say that. So how would you do that now? So one part obviously here is, like I said in the an earlier section, that we might be worried about the consequences, or we might be thinking that this person is going to completely understand what I'm going to say, and that this person's behavior would change. So one thing that I would like to warn you about, in advance, that when the purpose is to give feedback to somebody, we have to be very aware that just our sharing our feedback or our expression of our feeling is not the only thing that is going to help the person change. And the person may not even want to change after listening to this feedback. So when you're sharing your feeling, or when you're sharing your feedback about what you felt with the person who you think needs to know about it, or is responsible for it, the important thing is to tell yourself that I'm going to express because I think that's my right, but I'm not doing this to be liked. I'm not doing this because I believe that the person would change completely. I'm doing this because I need to do this. So that's one way of going ahead, and let's say if I am in the situation now where I am sitting in front of the other person, and I am going to share how I felt when this person shouted at me. Then there are other things that I need to keep in mind. One is that I still need to take a pause and see how I'm feeling right now. um, I may be overwhelmed with all the thoughts that I'm carrying. I may want to say a lot. I may bring in 10 examples from history as to when else I felt that, or when else I've faced the situation. But uh, what works best is to be specific when you're communicating. So remind yourself to be very specific, not go back to history again and again and bring up 10 more stories to build evidence for what you're saying. If the objective, the purpose is to share what you're feeling, keep it very specific. Keep the example very specific and share that with the person. So apart from being specific, the other thing that you would do is use I statement more than the blaming statement, if that's possible. So for example, if I am angry with let's say my colleague about delaying something that she was supposed to work on, I may say, you're always late, and this affects the whole organization. You shouldn't be doing that. So, of course, in this scenario, I sound irritated, but I did not share it in a very specific manner. That's a mistake, because I just gave a very ambiguous, broad statement that you're always like this. And logically thinking, nothing is always like this or never like this. There are always, gray areas in the life that we live, in the world that we live in. So I need to remember that. I need to be specific, and I need to say that I was expecting. And listen, so this is conversation to my colleague. I will say, "Hi, Nirmala. I was expecting that the report would come in by 10 a.m. like you had promised, and it did not come. So I'm now. I would like to know what is it that is stopping or coming in the way, and if there is something, some kind of support that you need from me." So here, the purpose is to share how I feel. So I feel concerned, and I might add that in the whole sentence. But the other purpose here, for example, if this was the conversation with my colleague, the purpose is also to make sure that the work is getting done. The work is not stopping. So that's also the other purpose that's coming into this communication. So when it comes to sharing our feelings, I'm going to take a step back and just again say what I was trying to say. So sharing our feelings, we might be worried about the consequences, but we need to remember that sharing how we feel, especially if it's happened in scenarios where we think our rights were violated. So sharing our feelings is also is our right. So it's okay. Second thing we need to remember is that we are sharing a feeling, but the idea is not for always for the behavior of the other person to change, or to only to vent it out very aggressively. We have to remember that when we share or express ourselves, we have to respect and protect our rights, but also rights of other person that we're talking to. um, Third is we have to be very specific, not bring 10 things together, because that makes all the communication very hard. When we don't stick to certain points, and when we keep going to different directions, then the person in front of us is going to be very confused about what we really want to say, right? So it's important for us to be specific if that's possible. So maybe planning in advance as to what you might want to say is also going to be helpful. And the last bit is about using I statement. So focusing more on how I feel, um, rather than saying you did this and you did that. If this is a person that you want to sustain your relationship with, if this is a colleague, if this is a friend, if this is somebody, who needs to understand how you feel. So use of I statements, being specific, recognizing the purpose of this communication, and remembering that this final act of sharing your feeling is going to be guided by how you feel about this whole scenario, and what is going through your mind. So I hope this much is useful for you. We will come back and, of course, take this conversation further in future conversations. Thank you for joining us, and do check the playlist on Empathy Fact series. It's got many other topics and many other things that we talk about on Guinea's Planet. Bye for now.